But we also believe that with the mindset shift, and of course the pandemic has helped a lot, the idea of you finding everything in one-stop shop is the idea for you not having to switch app every now and then for everything you do, right?
Hey gang, it's Thursday, June 10th. Rodrigo, Matteo, and listeners, welcome to the Behind the Numbers Daily, the eMarketer podcast made possible by VTEX. I'm Marcus, and today I'm joined by two folks. First of all, we have Rodrigo Gouveia joining us. He is the CEO at Intershop, who are VTEX clients. Rodrigo, thanks for joining.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Marcus. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Of course, the pleasure is all ours. We're also joined by our senior analyst covering Latin America and Spain. It's Matteo Ceurvels.
Hi, Marcus. Great to be here.
Hey, chap. Good to have you as well. So, before we get on with the episode, today's fact. There's a Starbucks cup in every shot in the movie Fight Club. So you're also never more than 10 seconds away from a Starbucks. That's not true, I made that up. But what's crazy is it feels like it's true. It feels like they're everywhere. But what is true is that there is a Starbucks cup in every scene in the 1999 movie Fight Club, starring Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, and Helena Bonham Carter. The cup's appearance was reportedly inspired by a line in the film when Norton's character explains, quote, "When deep space exploration ramps up, it will be the corporations that name everything. The IBM Stellar Sphere, the Microsoft Galaxy, Planet Starbucks," close quote. Have you guys seen Fight Club?
I have. Great movie.
You have? Okay. I didn't get through it. I watched the first 10 minutes, lost me. But now that I know there's a Starbucks cup in every scene, it feels like a challenge. I'm going to have to find it. Did you notice that, Rodrigo?
No, I did not. But I know there's a Starbucks like one block from our hotel here. So
there we go. That sounds about right.
I know there was a Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones, so I mean, there you go.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Is there...
It was all over the internet. Don't
tell me where it is. I'm going to rewatch the whole thing, try and find it. Today's real topic, how payment behaviors are changing, and can a digital bank become a one-stop shop for everything? Okay, we have the pleasure of being joined by Rodrigo, as I mentioned, who works at Intershop, which is part of Banco Inter. So, Rodrigo, let's start by explaining who Banco Inter are.
Okay, great. So, I think Banco Inter has been through lots of transformation, I would say. So, to be really explaining here, so that's like maybe three stages that we can think about Banco. Banco Inter started in 1994 as Banco Intermedium, which was pretty much a finance construction structure. So, it was a B2B bank. In 2015, it really made an entire shift to turn into a digital bank. So the Bank Intermedium has been cut to only Banco Inter. So it's easier to spell and also easier to reach our clients specifically. So the whole purpose, it was the first digital bank in Brazil, okay? Full bank. So with the purpose of a bank revolution, very much focused on digital, no branches, 100% of traditional banking services, as well as free of charge of any fees. No debit account, no credit card, and no withdrawing, or no wire transfer fees. So we went to really with a very interesting strategy.
Yeah.
And in 2019, we shifted again towards a consumer finance purpose. So we're really much approaching less bank, more banking, more financing. So we're really bringing new purposes and new products, which are also non-financial products, which is what part of Intershop is now. So we're really offering within the same app, the banking app, opportunity for you to shop at different e-commerces, from e-commerce, food delivery, travel, as well as our MVNO, which we're also becoming a cell phone carrier as well. So lots of new things happening within this, past 6 years.
Okay. So I want to get onto all those things that you guys are working on. But really quickly, so you said you're the CEO of Intershop. So what are you doing day to day? What's your job? What's your role at the company?
So I was brought to Inter by the stakeholders in July 2019. Prior to that, I was at Facebook and Latam for a while working. And my main goal was really to build this vision of creating a marketplace within a financial app, which sounds like 2 years ago, maybe a crazy idea what no one was doing. And today, everyone is following the steps that we've done. So there are several players that are really catching up to that. So my idea was really to build and structure this vision and this idea and put it into practice, right? And the second piece is really much as we come from a digital bank that is free of charge to bring new ways of monetization, right? How can we be profitable? How can we can also engage this database of clients that we're with over 11 million clients today in Brazil and expanding. And so how can we monetize and bring this new, idea within the app?
Okay. So you mentioned you've gone from becoming digital banking service into trying to be a one-stop shop for folks. Matteo, you were noting that this is very popular in Asia with WeChat, things like that. And so really quickly, Rodrigo, I'm wondering why you are gravitating towards the one-stop strategy, and also what gives you the confidence that that's something that consumers will want?
Yeah, so I think it's the idea of always bringing, the idea of the east part of the world, Asia specifically. I think when we talk about, Alibaba and also about WeChat, which is owned by Tencent, I think the idea of putting everything together in one single app has been very successful, I think. But there are several differences, I would say. But to highlight a couple, when we think about, the West part is one, these two companies, they own the majority of the apps that are within this app. Majority of the companies. So that sort of monopolizes a little bit the idea of creating everything in one. So, right, if they had investment or they actually own 100%. And the second part is that the idea of, the Cash app, using the account as your bank, it's much, much more popular there. It's becoming here, but it's much more popular there because the Chinese market overall use less. They have access to credit cards, but they use less credit cards and less installments. So I think this, and when we bring here to the West side, which I think is the quite interesting piece, is that we've studied a lot of the business models from different players. And I can tell you that maybe I'm not going to affirm to you that we are the only app in the West that does all that we're doing. But I'll say they might be able to find 1, 2, or 3 besides us that does the same thing that we're doing. So it's something very new into the West side. But we also believe that with the mindset shift, and of course the pandemic has helped a lot, the idea of you finding everything in one-stop shop is the idea for you not having to switch app every now and then for everything you do, right? Oh, I need to order food. Let me open the food app. Oh, I need to buy something. Let me open the other e-commerce app. Oh, I need to book a travel. Let me open this other app. They used to bring everything into one place, right? So if you develop an idea, as I mentioned before, less being a bank, but use your transaction, your financing, right? Your money that is in there with the credit that you have and build your own credit and be able to provide services and products at this one place where you can enhance your experience. You can also save money because we offer cashback in all transactions that is done through our app. So it's also a way of a loyalty program for you to save money as well. It starts to become something that we like to say there's an ecosystem, right? So the one-stop shop, more than a super app, it is an ecosystem that is being built within the Inter app overall to facilitate and simplify everyone's lives on a daily basis. That's sort of the core that we're doing.
Matteo, from your research on consumers in Brazil, what are your thoughts on whether something like this can really take off? Because as we mentioned, in Asia, we've seen it explode and become a very dominant way that people get things done is inside one of a couple of apps. Whereas in the US, we've seen some attempts. Facebook says, hey, come here, shop, social network, watch videos, and they're adding a whole bunch of other features, hoping that people live within that, as Rodrigo said, that ecosystem. What are your thoughts on whether that can transfer to Latin America, more specifically Brazil?
I mean, I definitely think it does have the potential to work. I think Rodrigo's point about the fracturing of who owns the companies specifically, I think that is a major hurdle, especially when you're trying to combine services and apps and you have to figure out revenue shares and all those intricacies with that. But I think from a consumer perspective, it could very well take off just for the convenience factor. I think part of it will depend on company trust. That would be a big factor in that. I think with Facebook, given all recent scandals or in years past, I think consumer trust is a little, on the edge for some people saying, I want them to hold all of my data, whereas say with like a banking player or a fintech, there's a little bit more trust with that because this is your banking information. That's one of the most important things you'll have is your money.
Yeah.
But I think the convenience factor is definitely one point. Especially in Latin America more broadly, cell phones don't necessarily have a ton of storage space. So if you can have one app that has everything consolidated into one single app, that's also not going to kill your memory on the phone versus, say, having to download 5, 6 different apps. I think that is a very attractive offering. I think it's just a matter of how can the ecosystem or how can businesses within this ecosystem come together to work together, form those tech partnerships on a development level to then really build out some type of super app, also continue to grow revenues and profits for each respective company.
Mm-hmm. Rodrigo, how have payment behaviors changed in Brazil in the last year or so?
Well, I would say that we've moved not only e-commerce in general, like with the pandemic, that we say we accelerated so much. So does have payment. And what we see, there's a couple of things that has been happening, right? I think the first thing to highlight here is our central bank, our Fed, right, here in Brazil, that has been very proactive in terms of incentivizing the competition, right? So before you actually had, dominant players really, dictating how payments should look like. So for instance, there's a new form of payment that's becoming very popular in Brazil and growing very, very fast, which is called Pix, P-I-X, which is basically the Fed, the central bank here saying that, hey, if you want to transfer money, to any bank account, you can do it for free. Because before you had to pay, here it's about 18 reais, which is about, $4 or $5 per transaction. And you guys, if you look in the US, there's also a cost of a wire transfer that everyone pays. So central bank came in and said, you know what? Let's democratize this. There's no more cost and everyone's mandatory. Every bank needs to get into this format, and e-commerces and merchants are also welcome to accept Pix payments. So I think this is, I would say, this past year has been the major transformation, and a lot of things being driven in the economy because you save money to the consumer. The merchants end up avoiding the MDRs and the fees that is related to the credit cards, right, to the companies. And also, if you think about the economy itself, you're fluctuating much more the opportunity of quick payments and transfers, right? So I think I would say this is the core highlight. The second one is when you look in terms of the cash apps, which is something, it's becoming a popular topic, right? Everyone's been talking about cash apps and how you do it. And more people are like really leaving their credit cards and their money away and using their cell phone as the key device. And within whichever app you're using, you can actually have, your money within the wallet and make all the payments feasible. So I think Cash App is something that is becoming something very popular that we'll be seeing that happening in the United States and also in Asia with the some of the key players that we've discussed before. And I think this is something that we're also seeing growing here. And there's a great spot for everyone. So I think it's becoming much, much more democratized than it was before.
Yeah. Matteo, I think you shared this chart with me. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the source. ABECS. Let's leave it at that.
Correct.
Do you want to try? Do you want to try and pronounce it for me, please?
Actually, let's have Rodrigo go with this. We'll have a true Brazilian give it a go.
It is ABECS, right? ABECS or ABECS, as we say in Brazil. It's a Brazilian association for companies that provides the credit card or service providers.
Okay. ABECS. Yeah, let's stick with that. Thank you for that.
Yeah. We'll stick with that.
So they had some research showing 2019, basically looking at share of mobile proximity payments volume in Brazil by payment method. Share of mobile proximity payments in volume. 2019, they had credit cards accounting for basically everything. 83% debit cards, 12%, and then some prepaid cards a little bit. And the following year, credit cards went from 83 down to 46%. So from over 80% to less than half, with debit cards overtaking them, going from 12% to 48%. Do we know, can we explain this? Why there was this sudden drop in credit card usage 2019 to 2020 and an explosion of debit card usage? Is this like an anomaly, or is there something going on in Brazil that most of us don't know about?
I think there's a couple of things, right? So it really depends on how, as I mentioned, the cash apps has been constantly growing, and the cash app not necessarily need to have a credit card. All you need to do is transfer money from one account to another or money from one app to another, and that's becoming very, very more formal, and that has becoming also one opportunity for us to do installments, which is something that's quite familiar here, and it's been picking up in the US with with different players there, Klarna, Affirm, with the buy now pay later ideas, where you can use you can pay those things in installments without having a credit card, only with adding that money into the wallet. So I think this has been one interesting point. And the credit card itself, I think it is always a challenge, right? As I mentioned with Pix, also with this new payment method, you as a consumer might consider or not consider, but as a corporate or as a merchant, you are actually not using much more and not incentivizing the use of credit card because it has a charge fee that you don't want to pay.
Yeah.
So
right.
that might be one of the answers, I would say.
Okay, interesting.
In terms of consumer spending, we will see this push towards, I'd say, a less reliance on cash. Obviously, there will be still parts of the informal market that will depend very heavily on cash. That's not going anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately. And full disclosure, I am very anti-cash. I hate cash with every fiber of my being. So I am all for digital QR codes, scanning, all the whole works. So I'll preface that with that. But looking even at the data from ABEX, we have seen substantial growth over the past few years. Looking at mobile proximity payment volumes more broadly, from 2018 to 2019, growth of upwards of 700%. From 2019 to 2020, another strong year of 470% growth. So that basically is about anywhere from about $1.4 billion to about $8 billion just within that time period. So definitely the future is going to be geared towards mobile and payments and more of these digital payments. And I think as the ecosystem continues to develop, and even as we're seeing with Pix going there, it's an explosion, and it's a very exciting time. And those companies within the ecosystem that are taking measures to improve the customer experience, to provide these digital payment methods and offering a wider variety of types of payments, be it proximity payments, credit cards, debit cards, Pix payments, QR code payments, the whole slew of it, they're going to be the ones to reap the advantages of it. And that was something we had mentioned last year at this onset of the pandemic. Those companies that will be able to provide a proper digital experience and that are prepared for the digital experience will reap the benefits. And now, looking back a year later, that's really was the case.
I can't just gloss over this. You hate cash
Hate it.
with every fiber of your... Is that what you said?
Hate
with every
it.
fiber of your being? What's wrong with... Why?
I don't like it. Well, I mean, you're from the UK too, so when you go to Europe, you have all those coins. Like,
the coins.
Come on.
I thought, well, here it's different. You only have 4 as opposed to like
I have
20.
$20 on me. That's it. I don't even have cash.
Okay, yes. Cash in the UK is a different... You basically walk around with like a sack of coins. Like it's the Middle Ages. It makes no sense.
No, I was just by the office the other day too. The food vendor trucks now, they all have like Venmo payments, cash payments, Square payments. I was like, this is excellent. My street food vendors have taken it too.
Right. Rodrigo, what challenges did Banco Inter face during the pandemic, and how did you attempt to solve them? What are some of the top challenges that you guys were hit with? Yeah,
so I think pandemic caught everyone, again, it is being something, right? I mean, across the globe we're not through that yet. So when it really hit us, and I'll say it was mid-March somehow, as I can remember, we really thought about what would be interesting for us to, first of all, do to our clients, right? We're very client-centric, and our first reaction was, wow, we need to help these people. So one of the things that we did, that we postponed all the credit card debts and the dates for 2 months ahead of time. So we delayed payments, not only for our clients, final clients, but also to the B2B, to the corporate accounts. And we developed a lot of incentives. For instance, Intershop, our marketplace, we've gave back 100% of cash back. So every commission that we get from the vendors to sell the place, we pass that along 100% to the clients. So cashbacks were much higher. So I think our first reaction was that, how can we help people, right? And then second was, okay, what would happen once we're doing that with the default? Right, with debts, which is something that's been a concern from especially banks, when you look in terms of what is the default or everything that we're doing. And we're happy to see that has not been affecting and increasing anything in terms of debt, because people were somehow very responsible, understood our purpose, and really, so that's the good part. And one other thing that I say, that being a digital company or being more than digital, being a mobile, right? Because everything happens in one single app. In one mobile. So we're not talking about several platforms. And is what I always try to state is that it's a common statement that has been made across already. It's called luck. We're lucky that we were there. But my definition of luck is not the definition of a random luck. It's when you have the preparation meeting the opportunity. Why do I mean that? If we were not prepared with a 100% remote app that you could use without leaving your home or anything, which happened to a lot of companies. We've seen several companies, shutting down because they were not ready. They were all physical stores. They were all outside. And then, suddenly you can't sell. Everything's shut down. It's being closed, right? And the opportunity, because even though It is a terrible situation that we've been navigating through, and no one wanted that to happen. It is an opportunity because more people were shifting towards e-commerces, were shifting towards digital solutions through mobile to make things happen. So I think this was a great alert. And I always say that when we develop things, we had to be ahead of time, which we are now looking, okay, post-pandemic, what is happening, right? And we've been talking about the physical with digital, the phygital that is being discussed. So we're really looking into that. Okay, how can we reconnect our app to the real world, right? So I think this is sort of how we've been navigating and understanding really what is always our next step before it really happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just saw that word written down yesterday. Phygital. Are we happy with that? Or is that going to become a thing? I hope not.
I think it is becoming a thing.
It is? Oh,
I
good.
think omnichannel is a little too abstract. I agree with you. I don't like it either, but there are lots of things I don't like that are unfortunately things.
Matteo, just to finish out the lead story here, what do you see as being some of the kind of lasting behaviors of some consumers in Brazil as it relates to their finances? Do you see them sticking with e-commerce and continue to ramp that up because it's more convenient, because it's more affordable? Do you see them saving more because of what the pandemic did to their finances? Is there kind of pent-up demand, and will there kind of be an explosion of consumer spending coming up? How are consumers' finances in Brazil going to play out for the rest of the year, let's say?
The future definitely looks bright for digital. I think the pandemic definitely played a huge role in allowing consumers to overcome several barriers, namely fears of fraud, fears of their identity getting stolen, basic things that we don't even really think about now because we've had e-commerce for so many years here in the US and in other more developed markets of the world. It's just second nature. But for people that were first-time buyers, and in fact, our latest eMarketer forecast revisions, we now expected that from over the course of 2019 through the pandemic, that over 38 million people were first-time digital buyers within Latin America, which is a huge increase.
Wow.
38 million, making it the fastest region, and Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico ranking in the top 10 in terms of fastest e-commerce growth out of the countries we break out. So in terms of the future, I definitely think it is going to be more digital. What we will start seeing is probably like a channel shift depending on what kind of category they're looking to buy. Sometimes I don't think it's going to be one size fits all. Physical stores are still going to have their place. Online stores will still have their place, and then omnichannel will have its place as well. So it's really just this phygital. This very phygital world.
We agreed we'd never use that word again, Matteo. You promised.
But I think finances, too, are going to play a big part, too. It's becoming a very attractive option to buy from local players in local currency, and all these initiatives coming out of the local market, making local e-commerce more attractive.
Really quickly, so to circle back, you said 38 million new buyers in Brazil, new online shoppers.
In Latin America, regionally.
In Latin America. Okay. That's the population of California. That's incredible.
So in Brazil, 17.5 million new digital buyers in Brazil from 2019 to 2020.
Wow, in just span of 1 year. Terrific. Well, unfortunately, guys, that's all we got time for the lead story. I want to say a huge thank you to my guests. Thank you so much, Rodrigo, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having. It's always a great discussion to talk about, innovation through digital bank, bringing, Intershop, bringing e-commerce into all the same discussion, right? So expect to see more from us and definitely from different players. And we have to be contributing and have, as we always say, the client at our center.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much. Pleasure is all ours. Thank you, of course, to Matteo.
Thank you, Marcus. Always great to be on the podcast talking about these exciting topics in LATAM.
Thank you. It's time now for In Other News, but first, a quick word from our sponsor, VTEX. Retail's next competitive threat may come from a business model or channel that didn't even exist a few months ago. This modern dynamic requires companies to adapt quickly, pivoting business seemingly overnight, something traditional commerce platforms just can't support. There's a new enterprise commerce platform on the rise, one that's fast, flexible, and doesn't require 9 months and $1 million to get up and running. Go to vtex.com/eMarketer to learn more. All right, folks, we are back. It's time now for In Other News, of course. Today, we're joined by one of our directors of forecasting. It's Cindy Liu.
Hi, Marcus.
Hey there, Cindy. Thanks for joining us for the second half of the show. Today, in Other News, Shifting homeowner behavior, Etsy spends $1.6 billion on a second-hand shopping platform, and Amazon finally announces its dates for Prime Day. Story 1. Americans dropped around $84 billion on home improvements and repairs in the past year, estimates home insurance group Hippo. That's 2/3 of US homeowners spending over $1,000 each on their house. Over half of Americans made at least one home improvement since the start of the pandemic. What part of their home are they spending this money on, you ask? The backyard is the number one place where home improvements were made. 21% of people spending a little money there. Followed by the kitchen, home office, and then the home gym. 9% of people spending money in that room. Cindy, is this a permanent homeowner mindset shift in your opinion?
Well, I mean, so, 2020 really brought on this housing boom, a lot of new homeowners. And so, 2021 will likely bring in, a boom in the home renovation industry. I think this year in particular, it's starting off really strong, and I think it will continue. I think the housing market might be, not softening, but it might be softening some, over from last year for sure, but I think it'll continue this year. I think what's really interesting is, we have like this whole new generation of millennials who just bought homes and, are starting to renovate. We're like a generation that grew up watching HGTV, and now it's funny because now it's actually our time to own a home, and most of us have no idea what we're doing.
That is too true. 7 out of 10 homeowners said they will continue to make the same amount of home improvements as they did over the past year. We'll see. Story 2. Etsy just spent $1.6 billion on second-hand shopping platform Depop, which takes an influencer approach to selling second-hand clothes online. Depop's mission is to build a, quote, community-powered fashion ecosystem that's kinder on the planet and kinder to the people, close quote. But why buy Depop? For one, in 2020, Depop made $70 million in revenue, and they have 4 million active buyers and 2 million active sellers. Another reason is that Etsy have said that they want to become the home of multiple e-commerce brands that cater to new audiences. Etsy bought Reverb, a marketplace for new and used musical instruments and equipment, back in 2019, notes Rebecca Highwile of The Verge. Cindy, how much can Etsy really benefit from this acquisition?
I mean, they are opening a market to, new acquisition of younger consumers. I think I read like 90% of Depop's active customers are younger than 26. So that's like a huge group of new customers, just because the Etsy marketplace, the main marketplace, generally caters to perhaps older consumers. This one is definitely younger, Gen Z. It also has sort of like this social vibe. I think you can like follow different brands and like comment on posts and things like that. So it has this sort of like social element. And just even stepping back, the resale market or if you want to call it the re-commerce market is hugely hot right now. We have lots of companies going public, Poshmark, ThredUp are other ones. And so Etsy's, kind of jumping into this space.
Yeah, you mentioned the younger audience. Miss Highwile of The Verge was noting the platform Depop is supposed to be the 10th most visited shopping site among US Gen Zers. Story 3. Last year, because of the pandemic, Amazon moved its made-up shopping holiday Prime Day from July to October. This year, it will be held June 21st to June 22nd. And some data suggests that lots of folks will be participating, notes senior editor of tech at Chain Store Age, Dan Batum. Points to a few things. Number one, global research from Bazaar Voice suggests half of folks plan to shop Amazon during Prime Day, with a quarter planning to shop a combination of retailers, as other retailers have deals during the same time. Point two, BlackFriday.com surveyed over 1,000 Americans and found that nearly 8 in 10 plan to shop Prime Day and will spend an average of just over $300 on Amazon during the promotion. And point three, Profitero, also asked over 1,000 folks in the US, with 6 out of 10 planning to shop Amazon on Prime Day. Cindy, what do you expect to see from Prime Day 2021?
Yeah, so we are actually just publishing our forecast for Prime Day, and we have growth at about 19% for Prime Day growth versus last year. That's a considerable amount considering last year was, such a big holiday time spending. So it's the June over the October time frame. So, it's not necessarily apples to apples, but, I'm expecting a big shopping event, lots of back to school planning. Also just, we are still in that kind of spring season of home improvement, which is just this big time, again, for homeowners. And so we're kind of at the tail end of that. And then also jumpstarting our, the summer season that we didn't have last year. So I think there's lots of demand and just pent up demand going into the summer.
Yeah, you mentioned back to school. There was one Retail Me Not survey. 9 in 10 folks were likely to use Amazon Prime Day to shop for back-to-school items this year. Top product categories for people planning to shop Prime Day deals for included beauty, 52%, then apparel and housewares, around low 40%. Half plan to just look to see what's on sale, says Bizarre Voice. There's reporting Amazon is considering adding another shopping event around the fall. We'll see if that comes to fruition. And also, speaking of other events, Walmart plans to hold a sales event called Deals for Days from June 20th to June 23rd. That is all we have time for. A huge thank you to Cindy for joining us for the second half.
Thank you.
Thank you to Rodrigo and Matteo, who joined us for the first half. Thank you to Victoria. She edits both halves. And thanks to everyone listening. We'll see you guys tomorrow for the Behind the Numbers Weekly Listen, an eMarketer podcast made possible by VTEX.